Previously on Stay in Your Lane.
I don't know that anybody necessarily is successful on their own. I really don't believe that. And we want to help people. Our motives aren't revenue focused, right? And when you're not revenue focused, your motives are much more clear and genuine. They're usually much more successful.
Question. In the different areas of freight caviar. I mean, you talk with a lot of different people. You're talking to brokers,
Mm-hmm.
shippers, carriers, probably even down to drivers and owner operators. And what sense are you feeling in the what does the industry feel like from your perspective? You talk to so many different people. What kind of signals are you getting?
What kind of signals am I getting in terms of like the overall like market
How the
or
market is, what are pain points, pressure points for people?
sure. I mean, right now, like people are struggling, especially in the trucking side, and you hear it a lot. Like people are barely making it by, and a lot of these trucking companies just took a lot of loans from the bank, and they have a lot of debt to pay back, and so. Uh, I mean, it's definitely a very stressful industry, and I would say particularly on the carrier side, since it like trickles down to them, they're like the final stage, and it's you hear a lot of carriers complaining on the brokers specifically. Uh, they're cutting rates, they're keeping the rates artificially low, and I feel like understanding the industry a little bit better. Like if you understand the fact that like there's supply and demand, like there's tons of brokers competing against these lows, and there's tons of trucking companies competing against them. Like the rates are going to be low, just supply and demand, economics 101, and it's definitely like a different stage of our industry because if when we deregulated the industry in 1980, there's been different phases and cycles, and I feel like we're right now at this currently there's just an overwhelming amount of brokers in the industry. Same with trucking companies, and we never had that before. And the pandemic kind of caused that to for a lot of people to come into the industry. And I think people are just like trying to like uh, basically like reevaluate everything that they maybe known about the industry or do. It's just a different environment. And there's been recessions and there's been terrible markets, but I feel like right now uh, it's very prolonged and it's tough for sure. Like, but I would say carriers feel it the most. Like, but then at the day, like brokers are able to. They don't have the overhead. They don't have all the debt. And I would say like the most of the stress comes from the carrier side. Uh, so yeah, I don't know if that answers your question well, but
Appreciate that. No, it does.
No, I think it's a great question, and um, you you get to really have good conversations when people have an open ear, right? I unfortunately believe that COVID hurt the industry from an overall perspective, but there wasn't much complaining going on of any type during COVID because I think everyone was making the revenue they needed to make and wanted to make, right? And then when things aren't so good is when you start to see, maybe the true colors in any relationship show. I personally don't care for the extreme swings in the industry. Most brokers think that's great because it's an opportunity to try and be more profitable, but that's not our business model here.
mhm.
And I wasn't familiar with you at any level, at any intimate level. We weren't even friends. And you posted the top 10 brokerages list,
Mhm, mhm.
and of course we made it.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, wait a minute. We're being recognized. Someone actually recognizes what our efforts go to every day. In our side of the business, that's not normal, right? I mean, you can appreciate that, Paul. So when you get recognized by your peers, it really means something. When people buy advertising for their organization or their company and want to tell people how great they are, that's totally different than when your peers recognize you. So I spoke to the class with OIDA, And I tried to express upon them that, the average broker in our industry has a Google review that's, you know, 2.3
Yeah.
stars. And you've seen it, and we've seen the behavior. And in 31 years I've been at Triple T, that's always been our biggest hurdle to overcome, right? But I think it comes back to motive from every perspective. We know the trucks are hurting. We're trying to protect everybody we can and be as fair and drive as much revenue as we can to the loyal ones that take care of us, and then we try and take care of everyone else. But I don't think that's the industry standard,
Yeah.
right? I think in a market of contraction, when freight volumes and freight availability drops compared to the capacity perspective, right? So when that happens, then I think it's almost human nature for people to want to sit back and point and blame. It's the broker's fault. They're cutting rates. They're doing these things, and I believe some of them are, right? But I also think that the carriers are engaged at the same level where possible. So we talk about broker transparency being an issue. You hear a lot about it, and I wanted to, I wasn't planning on going this direction today, but I think it's a good opportunity for us to talk about it because you're outside the loop, right? And I'm in the middle. I didn't hear anything about that during COVID, right?
Hmm.
It wasn't a discussion then. As rates declined and freight declined and the market became more difficult to be successful, then we've got to have someone to blame. Unfortunately, and I mean this, unfortunately, brokers are taking hits too if they're doing good business. We are. It's the cost of doing good business, right? When you need to step up and do what's right, you dig in your wallet and you make it right, and that impacts your profitability, yes, but it also supports your truckers and the guys on the bottom that are doing the work, right? And you have to understand that those are important losses that you should take when you need to do what's right. Now, we always seem to average between 4.2 and 4.6 stars on our Google reviews, knowing that you're never going to make everyone happy. So 5.0, on a consistent basis is unattainable. Very often, grievances are miscommunication, right, in our industry. I think that that's normal. And then, with the proper, I would say, effort and caring, you can help and bring and find common ground and not have those negative reviews from people. But I think it's inherent to the industry that we're in right now that, everybody's struggling. And when they're struggling, they're looking for, someone else to blame. And I think that's back to the beginning. I think that's somewhat human nature, but you work through those things, and I think the industry will rise up here as things start to return to. I think the economy becoming more stable and people being more confident, and we start to see the impacts come since the election. So, Paul, I think we're driven the same from a motive perspective. We want to bring value to everyone we work with, and I think that's genuine, and I see it in how you operate, and I appreciate you taking time and sharing with us. What is your goal or plan moving forward, if you'd like to share it with us?
Yeah. So it's I have a lot of plans, a lot of ideas. It's always so difficult to like make sure like I'm staying focused. It's always been a struggle of mine, and like free caviar wasn't something that I planned like out. It was just something I did uh, just for fun. It was I had an idea. I was at the gym one day, and I'm like, I'm gonna start making freight memes, and then all of a sudden I have this audience, and I'm like, oh wow, I could actually monetize it, create a newsletter, create a podcast, and now surprisingly, that's where I make the majority of my money is from freight caviar, like my salary and such. So I came here, 5 years ago. If you had told me, John, like Paul, you're going to be the owner of a logistics media company, and that's you're gonna be writing newsletters and making podcasts and making memes, I would never believe you. And so it's just kind of a shock to me, and I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that I've been given, and having created this little baby of mine called Crate Caviar. And now when I look into the future, it's definitely like for me, I've been maturing year over year, over the last 4 years since I started Crate Caviar. I'm a completely different like human. I'm a lot more mature, professional, more business savvy. I've learned a lot, and that also reflects on the content that we create. It's been more difficult for me to make those freight memes, or like the stupid freight memes I used to do 4 years ago. Luckily, I also have more individuals on our team that have been creating amazing memes. I also still create memes, but like I've been able to expand, and we've had Ari Levy who's been making hilarious memes for us, and there's also others. But overall, when I look into the future, I see this huge potential of having an audience. And when you build on an audience, um, you have to be very cognizant of what you're putting out there, especially if it's in a newsletter. Like every email that we send, like it's not easy, and it's sometimes it doesn't work the way maybe, or it's not written the way maybe perfectly that we'd want it to, and we strive for perfection, but it's just our goal, and it's not attainable always. Uh, but like when we're crafting this relationship with our audience and moving forward, I want to make sure that we are focused on providing information that individuals want, and each individual is a little bit different. So it's like the majority of the individuals in our industry, what they want. We want to educate them. We also want to entertain them because this industry is stressful. There's a lot of uh, stressful situations and problems that you have to deal with. So it's like how can we also lighten the load for the individuals? So it's like this blend between entertainment and education. And as we expand, it's we have this media arm, and how can we provide other services on top of that? So we have a freight tech product called Shipper CRM. We have the freight job board, freightjobs.co. And moving forward, as we expand, I see the opportunity to also provide more services if the capital is there to invest in such projects, uh, and make it kind of like be much more than just media. There's services and technology that we can provide, and I kind of like this is just me being speaking from like the very ambitious side. If you look like at, for example, like Amazon's been able to grow and take over various segments of e-commerce, and they've also have gone into logistics. They're much more than just a bookseller, like what they used to do back in the day. So it's like, how can we expand continuously? Um, and overall, like I would say, like honestly, like I would love to probably within the next 5 to 10 years sell the business, and then kind of be able to build a home and like have a family, uh and work more probably on a more of like a passion project. Like I love freight caviar. I love the industry, but there's always times where I'm like, it's I'm still getting stressed out, even if it's just content related. So overall, like, but it depends. There might be maybe someone will come along, maybe like an investment firm where they could, help us out to taking it to the next level, or some individual might be able to help us take it to the next level. But we'll see. It's tough to say, but definitely like right now, we'll just focus on like the entertainment education piece and like working internally, building out the organization better, have more processes as we grow. And that's been also a struggle. And it's something that's top of mind, but it's like, how do we do that? Getting me more out of like the day-to-day stuff and more on like the big picture related tasks.
Paul, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, and if there's something, like I said, we can do to help, we'll be happy to. And until next time, Paul, stay in your lane.